There have been times in my life where I felt like dying. Despite how much I'd like to forget them, these moments have largely been the ones who defined who I am as a person. In 2021, I was at my lowest. I had isolated myself from my closest friends, destroyed all forms of routine in my life, and was treating myself terribly, and as such, I lost pretty much all forms of connection, and that left me an inch from doing something I would truly regret. My life since then has been about recovery. Where I could previously chart my life as relatively normal in terms of mood, it was thrown into complete disarray, and it's been a losing battle to keep my head above water ever since. My poison has largely been depression, where some people go through wild bouts of joy that turn into mood dips so terrible it feels like life could not possibly ever get better. My illness has been characterized by a gradual wearing away of my psyche, like sandpaper being taken to my brain little by little over the years. It was around that time I found Mac Miller and the song Good News, but we'll talk about that in a second. Mac Miller passed in 2018, shortly after the release of his most popular album, Swimming. Swimming deals with themes of substance abuse, depression, and loneliness, but frankly you wouldn't know that if you listened solely to the instrumentals of the album. It's largely quite fun, poppy, and energetic, with these slower moments that encourage retrospection. The first lines of the album clearly set the tone though. My regrets look just like texts I shouldn't send, and I got neighbors, they're more like strangers, we could be friends. I just need a way out of my head. I'll do anything for a way out of my head. Mac, despite being surrounded by people, feels completely alone. He has people around him, but he struggles to form connections with them because of issues with himself. I think this mirrors a lot of people's experiences with depression. Most of us have advantages that make us feel like we should be able to avoid being sad. We've got friends, family, a comfortable place to live, and food on the table. Why are we so sad? Our needs are fulfilled. Mac knows he can get better, he just needs an escape from himself. He needs a way out of his head. In my own way, this feels like living some alternate reality, and I was drowning, but now I'm swimming through stressful waters to relief. The next line shows how Mac copes with his pain. He takes pills. The high he gets makes him feel like he's moving through the pain to something better, but he never quite gets there. Mac's life has become a self-reinforcing cycle of pain. He feels bad, so he takes pills, and those pills make him feel worse. Good News is one of the greatest songs ever written. The instrumental is this gentle, plodding string arrangement that, on its own, gives you time to think and to breathe. It's beautiful, and then, a few seconds into the song, Mac comes in. His delivery is gentle and slightly breathy. It almost sounds like he's been crying. Mac's first lyrics paint the picture for the song. I spent the whole day in my head, do a little spring cleaning, I'm always too busy dreaming. Mac's almost waking up after being in a trance, perhaps disassociating. As he comes back to himself, back to Earth, he decides to try and be productive, do a little spring cleaning. If you've been depressed, I'm sure you've also felt the urge to be productive. Me personally, I find that keeping busy is often the best way to stop yourself from feeling these feelings of loneliness and depression. Well, maybe I should wake up instead. A lot of things I regret, but I just say I forget. Mac's attempt to keep himself occupied is thwarted by himself. He's aware that what he's doing isn't actually solving anything, just putting off dealing with the problem for later. Because of that, he decides to stop and face his issues head-on, even though he's almost certainly not in a good enough state to do so. I'm sure this is something everyone who's struggled with depression has faced. It's much easier to delay dealing with the problem for later, and as such, our brains sometimes view delaying problems as invalid. I mean, if we want to get better, we need to face our problems head-on, right? Mac's next line is even more poignant. He's done a lot of things he regrets, and instead of dealing with that regret, he puts off thinking about it. That fact alone is enough for him to stop putting off thinking about his issues and try and face them head on, no matter how painful they may be to think about, and no matter how ill-prepared he may be at that moment. Why can't it just be easy? Why does everyone need me to stay? Mac has resolved to face his problems head-on and is crumbling. No matter how strong you are as a person, the issues in your mind are not things that can be faced on any normal day, and most certainly not alone. This line hits especially hard for me, and I'm sure it hits for anyone out there who's struggled too. We all have people in our lives that would miss us, and for most of us that's the thing that keeps us grounded. A moment of pain is nothing compared to the endless peace you would receive from passing on, and Mac wants to be at peace so bad, but he just can't bring himself to abandon those he loves, and thus he is stuck living in agony. Oh, I hate the feeling when you're high but you're underneath the ceiling. Mac has taken pills again to give himself a temporary reprieve from the pain, but it's not helping. Mac is high, but he can't escape the pain. This is a classic symptom of addiction. As you abuse a substance, the high you once got begins to fade and becomes insignificant, and all you're really left with is the downturn. Got the cards in my hand, I hate dealing. Mac, again, has all he needs in his life to get better. He has money, people who love him, and security, but it's not as easy as that. This is unbelievably common in people with depression. Many of us have what we need to get better, but something within us just keeps us down. I think it's different for everyone. For me, it was more that I became comfortable being depressed. Feeling terrible all the time became the norm, and I was terrified of breaking that norm because I was worried things would get even worse. It's impossible for me to know why Mac couldn't just deal his cards, why he couldn't get better, but I suspect it had to do with his addiction. Getting better would mean putting away the pills, and Mac had a very real chemical need at that point. If Mac committed to getting better, it would mean genuinely feeling worse for a time via putting himself through withdrawal. Get everything I need, then I'm gone, but it ain't stealing. Mac is once more reflecting on what it would mean to give up and allow himself to pass. He's had a good life in a lot of regards, and passing now would feel the best for him. Despite that, there's something stopping him, likely the thought of leaving his friends and family behind without him. Can I get a break? I wish I could just get out my goddamn way. What is there to say? There ain't a better time than today. Mac is plagued by two sides of himself right now, one wanting to pass and one not wanting to leave his friends and family behind. I believe that, paradoxically, he feels that both of these sides are impeding him from getting better. The one that wants him to keep living forces him to confront his issues without proper preparation, so that he can get better and keep going, and the one that wants him to be at peace obstructs the process of confronting his issues so that he remains closer to passing. He's stuck between himself, between a rock and a hard place, and that is keeping him in a sort of hell. Maybe I'll lay down for a little, instead of always trying to figure everything out. Mac has exhausted himself attempting to confront his issues in vain. I'm sure we all know how that feels, struggling to get better with no real hope of achieving anything. Mac is still stuck in this vicious cycle. He's reached the end of his rope and has gained nothing, and now he's going to disassociate again. And all I do is say sorry. Half the time, I don't even know what I'm saying it about. On my first few listens through, I interpreted this lyric as Mac apologizing to the people around him for failing to get better, but I don't believe that's correct. I believe Mac is apologizing to himself for failing to get better. The people in his life support him and care about him. They don't want apologies for him failing to get better, they just want to help. Mac can't apologize to them, so he apologizes to himself. He wants so desperately to get better, to be okay, but he can't manage it and he feels like he's failing himself. Good news, good news, good news. That's all they want to hear. This is, again, Mac talking about himself. All the two sides of himself want to hear is good news. I believe that interpreting the side of Mac that wants him to pass on as antagonistic is overly critical. I believe that side of Mac wants him to pass because it believes that the release of death would be preferable to the continued pain of living. In that way, it also wants good news. It wants Mac to get better, it just doesn't believe it's ever going to happen. It believes things will only ever get worse and that Mac should pass on to avoid further pain. Of course, it would be nice if that was good news, but it doesn't believe that's ever going to happen. If there's a truly antagonistic force within Mac, it's the side of him that wants him to survive. I interpret the lyrics of the song as that side of Mac being exasperated with him. Again, he has everything he needs to get better and he just can't do it. This side holds no compassion to him. I believe its view on Mac's mental health is that a strong hand is needed to guide him towards a better future. This side holds no compassion for him. I believe its view on Mac's mental health is that a strong hand is needed to guide him towards a better future. Now, I'm talking as if these two sides of Mac were separate entities, and they're not at all. These two sides of Mac are still Mac. My framing of them as separate is to help the audience better understand the complexities of this sort of depression. These two sides are the same. They want Mac to get better, but they take wholly different approaches to tackling the issue. No, they don't like it when I'm down, but when I'm flying, it would make them so uncomfortable. So different, what's the difference? Mac's usage of drugs is put on display again here. The stability of being okay he needs to keep going is out of reach, and so he resorts to drugs. These forces within him, trying to give him peace in different ways, both understand that a temporary fix is not going to solve anything, though Mac clearly doesn't see it that way. Feeling good is feeling good, you know? This is a very utilitarian view of the world. He's taking things at face value here. If you feel good, then you feel good. Doesn't matter how you got that high or what it's going to do to you. When it ain't that bad, it could always be worse. This is a very common thought for those with depression that ties back into what we discussed earlier. Things are good, you have advantages that others have, and you're still sad? Don't let thoughts like these trip you up. We all have our demons, and just because somebody has it worse doesn't mean you don't have it bad. They don't talk about me too much no more, and that's a problem with a closed door. This lyric in particular completely breaks my heart. Somewhere inside him, Mac genuinely thought that he would be forgotten if he passed, that we wouldn't talk about him still. There's a whole lot more waiting for me on the other side. I'm always wondering if it feels like summer. Mac is beginning to succumb to his depression. He's almost fully given up on things getting any better, and he wants to take the easy way out, as he mentioned earlier in the song. I know maybe I'm too late, I could make it there some other time. I'll finally discover that there's a whole lot more for me waiting, This is, to me, probably the most heartbreaking part of the song. Some part of Mac believes that because of his actions, he won't see heaven. This is the pain that Mac is feeling. He's so overwhelmed with regret and sadness that he believes that even if he ends up in hell, it would be preferable to what he's going through right now. A similar sentiment is mirrored on Come Back to Earth, the first song in Swimming. I know maybe I'm too late, I could make it there some other time. Then I'll finally discover that it ain't that bad, ain't so bad. Well, it ain't that bad, at least it don't gotta be no more. No more, no more, no more, no more. No more, no more, no more. I believe that these words are sung as Mac passes on. The song ends as the instrumental gently trails off and he hums himself out. Mac is finally at peace. A gentle end to one's life was a gift to a tortured soul like Mac Miller. Still, I wish you were here today. I want to say in the final moments of this video that life is much longer than you expect. If you're struggling with thoughts like these, please reach out to people in your life. But if you can't do that, if you need to be alone with yourself, remember, people who say life is short are liars. Life is very fucking long. You still have time left. You have a lot of time left. Statistically, if you're watching this video, you're probably in your late teens to early 20s. You have statistically another 60 years. You're gonna be fine. Trust me, things are bad now, but they will get better. Anyway, I love you guys. And there are other people out there who feel the same way. God bless you all. Stay safe. Peace.